Hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and I am here to talk about Amy Bradley and the myths of sex trafficking. Now, a new Netflix show has just come out, a series, and people are just everybody's talking about it. I mean, it's everywhere. It's on every media outlet, all the news reports. It's all over YouTube, and it is making a fortune for Netflix. And I will say this: both the producers of this show and Netflix, in my opinion, are unethical and uneducated. Or they're educated but still unethical because they know this is the way you make a lot of money. This case hasn't been talked about in years, so people sit around tables and say, what can we do that's going to be a big hit? And they said, how about this one? Never knew what happened to Amy Bradley. Amy Bradley is missing still, and we can make money off of this. That's why they do this, and rarely are they really concerned about the truth. I already did a video on this. This is the video I did, I think it was a couple years ago now. So I'll link that below. So when I finish this, you need to go there and you need to hear my analysis of this entire case, because there is zero proof she was sex trafficked. I believe she either fell overboard accidentally. There's a possibility she, having some emotional issues and drinking, maybe she put herself overboard. And there was a third view from some people that maybe somebody who was in the cabin with her, family member, may have helped her overboard in an argument. I have never found any evidence of that. So the first two are much more likely, and the first one is the most likely, that she accidentally went overboard. There is zero evidence she was sex trafficked, which I go through in the video, and I'll go through all the different evidence. And now people have been writing me, but haven't you, what about all the new evidence that they've got in this Netflix show? It's not new evidence. It's regurgitated garbage is what it is. Kind of like when Netflix put out Making a Murderer, everybody said, Pat, don't you understand that this guy's innocent? I'm like, the evidence against that man was overwhelming, but Netflix saw a massive moneymaker and it worked for them. They didn't care about the truth. They just wanted to make the money. And it's been appalling what they did. Making a Murderer is one of the most egregious things I've ever seen. This is pretty upsetting as well, because they are pushing more myths about sex trafficking. So I'm not going to talk about all the evidence about why I think she went overboard, like Derek Levasseur also on his channel says he thinks she went overboard in that time when she went back to her room and then wasn't seen again. Same thing for Dr. Grande. So yeah, three of us right here who say we don't think she was sex trafficked. Now, I'm going to explain to you the myths of sex trafficking and why absolutely she would be not the person who would be sex trafficked. And as I get into that, just before I get into that, I want to say, please do support the channel. This is a touchy topic, and I would love support for it, because I'm going to tell you something truthful, because I'm not here just for the clicks. I want you to understand. And I don't think, who knows whether YouTube will even appreciate this particular thing. So please support the channel. There's a super thanks button below. Do help an educational channel. Just putting my little plug there, just because it's hard to talk about these things, because I know I'm going to get a lot of people who are very angry when I say these things, and they're going to say, you don't know what you're talking about. But the problem is, this is like the satanic panic thing that rolled around the country for a while. And the sex trafficking thing is now the newest thing. Everybody's being sex trafficked. Children are being sex trafficked. Women are being sex trafficked. Men, everybody's being sex trafficked. And that is not how it works. And the problem is, people don't understand there is sex trafficking, but it's not the way they think. So now I'm going to clear it up. All right. Let me just say this. Let me tell you what happened in case you never watched anything. Just a little blurb. 1998, 23-year-old Amy Bradley vanished from the cruise ship she and her family were vacationing on. A full search of the ship revealed nothing. They believe she either jumped over or fell overboard on the way to Curacao. But a body was never found, which always, if you can't find a body, that's where all the craziness comes in. Same thing happened with Natalie Holloway, and I don't know how many people have been in the water. They just don't find their bodies forever, and the crazy theories just go on and on. And so, over a span of decades, multiple people report seeing Bradley alive on the Dutch Caribbean island, as well as a sighting in Aruba. evidence that Bradley may have instead been trafficked off the boat. There is no evidence she was trafficked off the boat. These are just claims people say. And potentially through the help of one of the ship's entertainment staffs, which everybody's going after. Only gets weirder from there. All right. I'm not going to get into the details of the documentary because I'm not going to give them, I'm just not going to fight it, every one of those. With people say, what about this? What about that? The producers say, they think she's alive. They're going to find her. And because I think they're unethical. They're out there to promote their series and not really promote the truth. All right. Let's start with, here's the first thing I want to start with as far as understanding sex trafficking and why she is not alive. First of all, Amy Bradley was 23 years old. And people don't like me to say this, but she was not a beauty. She was an average looking woman. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. And every time, if an average looking woman puts on a lot of makeup and stuff, yeah, she can be quite pretty. And you put a filter on, you can be really pretty. But she was an average looking woman. And she was 23. Sex traffickers prefer as young as they can get. When I say young, usually not children, not toddlers. That's not usually what they're sex trafficking unless they're in some pedophile ring. And I'll get to the pedophile ring issue. Usually is teens. Especially teen girls. They may be 17, 16, 15, 14. But by the time they get to 23, they're not as interesting to sex traffickers for a number of reasons. One, because they're too old for a lot of their clients. Their clients prefer the fresh teens, not the woman who has maturity. Secondly, the more mature the woman is, the more she's a pain in the butt. She won't go along as easily with the program. She will fight back. She will argue because she has some sense in her head. It's like, I don't like this, and I'm not going to cooperate. Teens are more likely to give in. So those are the first reasons. Now, the next huge reason is this. Most in the United States and in certain parts of the world, I'm going to get to the other parts of the world, teens, the age frame that they like, they do not need to kidnap because they can get them easily. You've got teens who run away from home. They run away to major cities. They don't have any place to stay. Here comes the pimp. He's hanging out at the bus stop. He's like, hey, I'll help you out. I'll give you a place to stay. And after he does that, then he says, here's some food, here's whatever. Sometimes the teens fall in love with the pimp. Other times the pimp is like, okay, you've been here 3 days. You can't live here for free, So here's what you're going to do. And they get them into prostitution. They didn't kidnap them. They lured them with some kind of offer that is going to help that teen. There are drug users. Drug users who need money. They're all over the place, and you can say, come on over here. I'll get you into this massage parlor, or I'll get whatever brothel, and you can make money. And they're on drugs, so they're like, okay. There are young men and women who go out to Hollywood with hopes and dreams of becoming somebody. And they do some casting couch stuff, and then they realize they can't get good work out there, so they start prostituting. So you've got all these willing teens and young women, good-looking ones. Some of them are stunning. You don't have to kidnap them. And the last thing you're going to do is kidnap an American citizen off a cruise ship and start an international investigation when you don't have to. That's just stupid. And they don't need to do it because they've got others who are willing to do it without the kidnapping part. Now, sometimes in certain island situations where young people are going from one island to another, young adults, you may have somebody coming from a poor situation and they're saying, hey, come over to our island, we can get you to work, again, not kidnapped. Lured maybe, but not kidnapped. So there's no reason to kidnap. Even Jeffrey Epstein, who everybody is like, oh my God, he's a pedophile. Now, first of all, he's not a pedophile. He's an ephebophile. A pedophile is somebody who likes little kitties. An ephebophile is somebody who likes fresh young women. Maybe almost legal, but not quite legal. They haven't been around the block as much, theoretically, and they're still having young bodies, young, fresh bodies. 17, 16. And again, he didn't kidnap anybody. He lured them. He said, hey, why don't you come and give me a massage and I'll give you money. And then it went further. And then he said, hey, you can make more money. And guess what? I'll take you on my fancy plane. I'll take you to fancy restaurants. I'll buy you designer clothes. And here's a girl who's from maybe not such great circumstances. And they're like, well, I could work at Dairy Queen and I could make, minimum wage for the week, or I could work 1 hour. And I already had sex with some guys anyway. I could just have sex with this guy and I'm going to get more money than I made in a week in an hour. And hey, I get to go on this plane and go all these cool places. They're lured in by the money. They're lured in by this lifestyle. They're lured in by a lot of things. But I haven't heard any proof that even Epstein, who was a scumbag and deserved to go to prison, and don't miss him at all, there's no proof that he kidnapped anybody. And there's no proof he ever was with little children on the island. Then adding in satanic panic there, that these little children were kidnapped off the streets of, I don't know, everywhere, and taken to an island and raped and abused and then murdered. It's nonsense. That's absolute nonsense. There's no proof of it, but people love that really creepy, horrible story. And, oh my God, that's what's happening. No, you can look at things for what they are. Is it right that young women and young men are lured into a profession in which they are essentially allowing themselves to be abused on a daily basis? Is that a good thing in our society? Absolutely not. It's horrific. That's absolutely horrific. But then again, there's people in the society who seem to think if they turn 18 and have a OnlyFans channel and prostitute themselves to that, they're like, oh, it's their right and choice. Okay. Yes, they're an adult and they can make choices, but still horrible and wrong. And it's even more horrible and wrong if they're underage and adults take advantage of them, take advantage in that they are luring them and then whatever, into a lifestyle that then perhaps because of their power, they continue to control in a sense, not just that they kidnap, but control in a sense through the money and through the perks and through, hey, I'm no better than you, that kind of stuff. Just that's what they do. But no need to kidnap this woman off the ship and force her into a life of prostitution. And there's some people claiming like she's going around the island. They see her out in public with bodyguards. What the heck? When you can have women who don't need bodyguards, they'll simply go out, have lunch, and come back to the brothel and make money that night. Why would you bother? And especially if you kidnapped her, you think you're going to really roll around the island and in the public and have people go, oh, isn't that Amy Bradley? Nobody's that insane and stupid. That's ridiculous. All these claims are just outright garbage. And now the next thing, some people think she's still out there. She would be 50 years old today. I'm going to guarantee you that even if she were kidnapped, a woman who's hitting older age, nobody's going to keep around. They're going to keep her for almost 30 years, 3 decades. They're going to keep her in some brothel so she can continue to perform until she's 50. Nah, this is just stupid again. And another thing that, okay, so now she's been in this business for all this time and she's wandering around. Now people see her all the place. Somebody saw her like out in San Francisco in a restaurant out there. What, she's wandering all over the place? But she never calls her family up and says, look, I got kidnapped off the ship. And by the way, she never calls her family again. She just lets them suffer. And she's just comfortable walking around in public, even though everybody's looking for her. And she doesn't want to be found, but she's going to walk around in public. This is just nonsense stuff. And the fact that Netflix and these producers will put this garbage out there is despicable, in my opinion. So nobody kidnapped her off the ship, and nobody kidnaps teen girls, adult women like Sherry Papini. Everybody said, oh my God, she was kidnapped. I'm like, no, she wasn't. Same thing. Number of things happen. Either sometimes they get kidnapped. If they're kidnapped off the street, like let's say your 14-year-old teen is walking down to the corner to get herself an ice cream and she disappears. It's a serial killer. If your 6-year-old boy walks down to the corner, like Aiden Pates, and doesn't make it to the school bus stop and disappears, it's a serial killer. Even pedophile rings don't kidnap children that are from middle-class communities or whatever, because again, it starts a huge police investigation. They can get little children from their own parents. Their own parents will sell their children. In other words, let the children be used, borrowed, whatever, because they're sick people. Drug users again. People in bad shape will oftentimes not pay much attention to the children, or let their children be used by the uncle, the neighbor, or daddy, or whatever. And then they will share them. But again, they're not going to go into a neighborhood and kidnap a kid like Madeleine McCann. So there's no sex ring that kidnapped Madeleine McCann off the, out of Portugal. Why? Again, because they can get parents and other relatives to lend them their children and to be involved even in a ring like that. They don't need to start international investigation between now Portugal, UK, and Germany, and having Scotland Yard all over it. And they're right on the, across the water from North Africa. There's a lot of poor people, and it's easier to get children from poor people. That brings me to how actual sex trafficking of children actually works. Now, most of the time when you're talking about actual sex trafficking, you're talking about a situation where the country that kids are being trafficked from is massively poor. There is a really good book and movie. This is the book. I've read it. It's called Sold. And this is the movie based on it called Sold. Either one you will enjoy very much in a very sad way. And the story is about a young girl who's from Nepal. And she loves her family. And she has happy things that she loves, even though they're poor. But then rains come and the crops get all completely destroyed. I think stepdaddy's like gambling and crap. And he says, hey, you got to go earn some money. So there's this wealthy woman who is coming through, and she says, I can take you to Calcutta in India, and I will put you with a wealthy family, and you can be a servant, and then you can send money home to your family. And stepdaddy goes, go do that. And she's like, and the little girl's like, where's the teenager? Young teen. She's like, oh, okay, I'll help my family. And I get to go to India. And she does go to India, but she ends up in a brothel where she is totally imprisoned and forced into a horrific sex acts and rape and all that stuff. It's absolutely the saddest thing ever. That is how it happens. It also happens that sometimes from China, there are people trying to leave China to get a better life here. Not the middle class Chinese people. They don't need to do that. They got a life. But some very poor women think, oh, if I could just get to the US, I could get a better life. And they have a passport, and they're lured in by, we're going to bring you to the US by whatever sort of group that is doing this. We're going to bring you to the US, and we're going to get you work. Yeah. Then they get to the US and they snatch their passports away, and they say, okay, here's what's really happening. You're going to be prostituting, and you're going to have to pay off everything that you owe us. And it goes up all the time, how much you owe us. So, those massage parlors, those Asian massage parlors, not massage parlors like Massage Envy, which are legitimate, but massage parlors, outside of the ones that actually have real masseuses there, you've got two kinds. You've got massage parlors that aren't full of Asian women, massage parlors with, American girls, women. They're also places of prostitution, but the girls keep their own money. They work there. The boss gets the money for the massage that they can't really do. And then they get the money for the extras. But in the Asian parlors, those girls, I don't know what kind of deal they get, or do they get a deal? They're just forced into just doing and supposedly paying off whatever debt, and they can't get out of it because they're illegal immigrants and they don't have a passport now, so they're screwed, literally. And both of those massage parlors, by the way, any massage parlor that's open to the wee hours of the morning is not legit. I mean, it's not legit. So that's another thing from that area of the world. Now, if you go down to south of the border, when you get the cartels involved, bringing forward or north young women or men, children from Mexico, from Central America, from South America. So you have the cartels, the coyotes they're basically human trafficking. And they're bringing them across the border for a bunch of reasons. One, because they are paid by the family to get their loved one across the border illegally, so then they can make money, send it home, and then eventually, hopefully, bring the rest of the family over. That's one thing. The next one is they're told, well, that's part of the same one, the first one. They're told, we're going to get you jobs in the United States. It could be working in these new huge marijuana farms, which are often cartel run. We're going to get you some work. So they're human trafficking the people across, again, to get work. But along with that, there's another group, which they're bringing them across the border for sex trafficking. So they may lie to them that they're going to get work and it's just human trafficking, but they're going to end up in a brothel. They're going to have some really horrible circumstances where they're illegal, so they're forced and they're threatened and whatever. That's real sex trafficking. Also, there are some women and young men, mostly it's women and teen girls, who have already been in the sex business in these countries, and they're like, oh, I'm already in this, and I'm already working for these people, and now they're saying you can go north and make more money, and I can also get into the U.S. Why not? So they go forward to the north, but they're still hooked up with very unscrupulous people. So that's how sex trafficking works. This is not how sex trafficking works. So the concept that she was ever sex trafficked is ludicrous. She died that night. Most likely she was going overboard, is where she's in the ocean someplace, just never was found. And to make money off of basically harness these producers, these media outlets are harnessing the fears of people who somehow think that sex trafficking is like you're totally innocent people just walking down the street getting kidnapped. You go on a cruise. There's people say, I won't even go on a cruise anymore. Oh my God, I might be kidnapped. No, you're not. Okay, you're not going to be kidnapped off the stupid cruise ship. Stop saying that. But they put this fear into people so they won't travel up to another country. So anytime a child disappears, oh my God, it's sex trafficking. It's usually not, for the most part, unless you're coming from certain countries which poverty is so bad that people do whatever they can to survive, and they're easily suckered into hooking up in the cartels and stuff to get to some place where they think is going to be paradise. And then they find out it's not, because they aren't free in paradise. They're still under the control of whomever brought them there. That's how sex trafficking really works. So I'm sorry that you're being bamboozled by these dishonest types of documentaries. Stop being bamboozled by them. I mean, really, it's just making you crazy. It's making you sad. It's making you go overboard with ridiculous theories. And you don't need to do that. There's many more things to focus on in real life, many more ways you can help your community and help solve. Who solves crime? I want to tell you who does that, because people say to me, why don't you call up the FBI, Pat? Because the FBI is not going to take a phone call from an independent profile. Even I can't do that. I can't just call up a police department and say, hey, let me weasel in on your case. That's not going to happen. What you can do is support your local police department. And support training for law enforcement so that they can do the best job they can to solve crime, to solve missing persons cases, to find missing people if they're really missing. And you want them to do the best job. So you as citizens, you start supporting your law enforcement and the training of law enforcement. That's where the best hope lies. Okay. Anyway, those are my thoughts on this. Again, do feel free to support the channel and at least subscribe to the channel. And hey, I rarely say share things, but share this, because I'm so sick of all this other stuff proliferating, which isn't accurate. And so Derek Levasseur, he at least did something reasonable. At the end, he kind of went, but it could be something else. I think he's just afraid of all the nasty stuff that comes in. Dr. Grande was pretty blunt about it. It's like, I think she went over. I appreciate those who know that they're probably not going to get a lot of love from a lot of people. They get a tremendous amount of hate comments. After I do this, I'm going to guarantee a lot of people aren't even going to listen to this video. They're going to stop in the first minute, the first point I say where she wasn't sex trafficked, and they're going to go bananas on me and say all kinds of mean things to me about how incompetent and stupid I am. And that's why people are afraid to speak up, because it's not pleasant. But so, yes, if you would like people to start understanding what real sex trafficking is and understand what evidence really is, and to stop all the nonsense, please do share this on your true crime channels or whatever you have, so that people can hear, reality instead of this kind of stuff that is being put out. Just drives me crazy. So anyway, thank you very much. Watch my original video if you really want to understand the whole thing. Although I explain enough of it here, so, I don't know that you need to, but if you want to, please go and check it out. And thank you for being here. Bye-bye.